I approached Rachel Young and told her that she has to, like, are you serious? You actually stabbed her?
Allie, Tim and I pray for Tammy Weeks and her family every night.
Can you tell us for certain or not whether this bullet came from that gun?
Some sobbed, others remained cold. Behind ordinary faces of evil teenage girl killers lurk the most chilling acts. From Natalie Keepers plotting a murder she never committed to Daisy Gonzalez's fatal robbery. Let's begin.
I was a very lovable person. Nicole touched many people throughout her short life.
She never met the victim. She never held the weapon. Yet the jury still found her just as guilty as the killer because prosecutors said the murder wouldn't have happened without her. On January 27, 2016, 13-year-old Nicole Lovell vanished. The search for her started with hope and ended in horror. The truth exposed betrayal, a disturbing plan, and 2 college students at its center. At the center of it was not only the killer, David Eisenhower, but also his friend, 19-year-old Natalie Keepers, who would later stand trial for helping plan Nicole's death in advance. Nicole Lovell was found dead near the North Carolina border. Investigators soon discovered that her killer was David Eisenhower, a Virginia Tech student who had met Nicole online. But as the case unfolded, they also uncovered messages, surveillance footage, and other chilling evidence revealing that Natalie Keepers, someone Nicole had never even met, was deeply involved in the plot. Prosecutors argued she was far from a bystander, claiming she acted as an accessory before the fact, helping Eisenhower plan each step of the murder. Detectives pieced together a timeline using surveillance photos, GPS data, and text messages. They found a video of Eisenhower and Keepers buying a shovel together. GPS records showed her helping him choose the location where Nicole's body would be hidden. Messages between the two revealed discussions about ways to kill Nicole. Prosecutors said this was more than just talk. It was preparation for a crime. When the case went to trial, the courtroom heard both sides. The prosecution painted Keepers as someone who willingly took part in planning the murder. The defense argued she was simply playing along with Eisenhower's fantasy and never believed he would go through with it. They brought in experts to testify about her mental health, conditions like borderline personality disorder, PTSD, and dependent personality disorder, which could make her easily manipulated. But prosecutors pushed back, saying her actions showed intent, not just influence. According to the defense, Keepers had no reason to want Nicole dead. They claimed her only motive was to stay close to Eisenhower, someone she admired and wanted to please. But prosecutors argued that she knew Nicole was going to die that night and chose to help anyway. After less than 90 minutes of deliberation, the jury returned a verdict: guilty of accessory before the fact to first-degree murder.
Words can't express how sorry I am. I never intended for this to happen.
The next day, they recommended her sentence. As the verdict was read, she sat motionless, her face cold, her eyes unblinking, showing not a flicker of emotion. On the other hand, Eisenhower received 50 years in prison. His apology offered little comfort compared to the weight of the sentence. The case closed with the community knowing Nicole's life had been stolen, not just by one person, but with the help of another who could have stopped it. For Nicole's family, the verdict brought some justice, but no verdict could bring their daughter back. Her mother said, "She was everything to me." One murder, planned with chilling precision and showing zero regret. Our next case investigates a jealousy so intense, it ends in a deadly rivalry.
Yeah, because I know they're going to jump me. I know Josh's family. Josh has hit me before. Josh's brothers have hit me before.
2 young women, one toxic love triangle, and a jealousy so intense it left one of them lying lifeless in the street. In court, the jury would hear angry voicemails, chilling threats, and details of the final confrontation that turned a rivalry into murder. Rachel Wade and Sarah Ludman weren't strangers. They were competing for the same man. Wade's ex-boyfriend, Josh Camacho. From the start, it was toxic. Public arguments, angry phone calls, and social media jabs turned their feud into a deadly battle. Wade left hurtful voicemails. Ludman showed up at Wade's workplace to taunt her, and police were called more than once. Instead of walking away, both women kept fueling the fire, and it was only a matter of time before it boiled over. On the night of April 14, 2009, tensions reached their breaking point. Wade armed herself with a steak knife before heading out. Hours later, Sarah Ludman drove to confront her rival. What happened next depends on who you believe. Wade said she was attacked first. Witnesses said Wade approached and struck without warning. What's certain is that Ludman was stabbed twice, one blow piercing her heart. She managed to call Camacho before collapsing. Police quickly arrived, spoke to witnesses, and learned of the long history of threats. Wade was taken into custody before sunrise. In court, the prosecution played voicemails, recorded months before the stabbing, in which Wade threatened to kill Ludman. Witnesses testified that Wade had approached Sarah's car and delivered the fatal blows. The defense argued self-defense under Florida's Stand Your Ground law, claiming Wade feared for her safety, but the jury wasn't convinced. At its core, this was a jealousy-fueled confrontation.
I was upset. I was getting harassing phone calls, just like she would tell me she was gonna kick me. I just retaliated and I said things. I said it out of anger.
Driven by months of bitterness over the same boyfriend, prosecutors said Wade's words and actions showed she had been planning to harm her rival long before that night. It took the jury just 2.5 hours to find Rachel Wade guilty of second-degree murder. In September 2010, she was sentenced to 27 years in state prison. She insisted she wasn't the monster everyone saw her as, yet her cold, unflinching eyes told a different story.
I'm so sorry to be the one who has caused you this great fate. I need you to know, please, that I too was just a teenage girl, not a monster and a murderer as it may seem.
For Sarah Ludman's family, the loss was devastating. A young life cut short over a relationship that, in time, might have been forgotten.
Your Honor, thank you for your time. Remember, this is my daughter. She lays in a cemetery. I go visit her there. Rachel Wade's parents can come and see her.
For Wade, the rivalry that consumed her ended with decades behind bars. Jealousy claimed one life. Anger stole another. But the next case shows a teenager armed, ruthless, and ready to take a cop's life without hesitation.
But not only didn't they rob him in his car, but they shot him with the revolver that they had.
On New Year's Eve 2021, off-duty Cleveland police officer Shane Bartek never made it to his celebration. Within minutes of stepping outside his apartment, he was confronted, robbed, and shot by his killer, who sped away in his car. The person behind the trigger, an 18-year-old, is already on a violent crime spree. When the jury finally heard the evidence, they didn't just see a teenager. They saw a cold-blooded killer who would never walk free again. This was not a mistake. This was murder. The girl was 18-year-old Tamara McLeod, just a teenager but already dangerous. In the weeks leading up to that night, Tamara had been involved in several armed robberies with 2 accomplices. On this night, she was armed with a revolver and ready to strike again. Outside Shane's apartment, she approached him, demanding his car. But Shane, a trained officer, wasn't willing to give up without a fight. According to investigators, Shane lunged for the weapon. In that split second, a shot rang out, hitting him. Tamara then took off in his car. Police arrived quickly, and the investigation moved fast, linking her not only to Shane's killing, but also to 4 other robberies in the preceding weeks. Detectives brought her in for questioning, where she admitted to shooting Shane and stealing his car, though she insisted it had been an accident.
I never drove this monster. Listen, one time though,
The courtroom would later hear a very different story from prosecutors. They said the evidence proved Tamara deliberately fired during the robbery, making this far more than just a tragic mistake. The jury saw it. Surveillance footage, witness accounts, and forensic details all worked against her. Her motive, investigators concluded, was simple. She wanted the car and was willing to use deadly force to get it. It wasn't desperation. It was a choice. The weeks of robberies leading up to that night painted a clear picture of someone spiraling deeper into violent crime. In the end, the jury found her guilty of aggravated murder, felonious assault, aggravated robbery, and weapons offenses. The sentence: life in prison without the possibility of parole. However, she showed no emotion for her actions. An appeals court later upheld that decision. she will never walk free again. For Shane Bartek's loved ones, the ruling brought some measure of justice. But no sentence could ever replace the young officer whose life was taken far too soon. Her mother said,
I couldn't hold my baby. I couldn't wipe away the blood on his face.
Another life stolen, another courtroom stunned. But our next case takes obsession to a horrifying new level, where a young woman turns her anger into deadly consequences for her father.
I don't know. I think it kind of made me feel like everyone was trying to make me think like I was crazy or something.
The courtroom was packed, and the story was shocking beyond words. The defendant was a young woman who once referred to her father as her best friend. She caused his slow, painful death, all because he couldn't drive her to a hair appointment before her 18th birthday. It was 2021, the day before Megan Amirowicz's 18th birthday party. She had plans, big ones. The first stop, her hair appointment. But her father, 64-year-old Conrad Amirowicz, had been drinking. He wasn't in any condition to get behind the wheel. What happened next, prosecutors argued, was fueled by pure frustration. According to investigators, while Conrad was asleep, Megan grabbed a container of lye commonly used in drain cleaners and poured it over him. The reaction was immediate. The chemical burned through his skin, leaving devastating injuries from head to toe. Conrad's fight to survive was nothing short of brutal. He needed kidney dialysis, a tracheotomy to help him breathe, and eventually, both of his legs were amputated. For 5 months, doctors tried everything, but his body could not recover. When he died, police built a timeline, one that pointed directly to Megan. She was arrested and charged. The trial pulled back the curtain on the horror. Jurors heard in detail how the burns destroyed Conrad's skin, how his body shut down, one organ at a time, how every surgery, every treatment was a desperate attempt to keep him alive. Prosecutors said the motive was heartbreakingly simple: anger. Anger that her plans had been ruined. Her friend said in court that her father's drinking had gotten in the way. One moment of rage, with consequences no one could undo.
Given that Conrad was laying on the couch, it was close to Conrad, is that right?
That is correct.
All right. Could you tell what it was from where you were?
I could tell that it was liquid.
In 2023, Megan was found guilty of using harmful devices or irritants causing death. The sentencing guidelines called for over 4 years in prison, but the judge, citing her youth, immaturity, and the chance for rehabilitation, sentenced her to just 1 year in jail because she had already spent about 17 months in custody before trial, and she walked free immediately. Prosecutors were outraged, but the Michigan Court of Appeals upheld the decision, saying it was not a mistreatment of discretion. Plans ruined, lives destroyed, but the consequences don't end there. Our next case shows one night of bad decisions, leaving a community mourning, and a teenager standing stone-faced in court.
Murder deserves no leniency, Your Honor. Age is not an excuse. Gender is not a shield.
The Clark County courtroom was packed as the case unfolded. On January 2, 2024, 29-year-old Daisy Gonzalez was shot and killed in his apartment during what investigators would call a robbery gone wrong. The young defendants would soon face the judge, the truth of their actions laid bare, and the consequences that could not be undone. Authorities quickly identified 6 people involved in the crime. Among them were 3 young individuals: 18-year-old Precious Dennis, 15-year-old Daisy Gonzalez, and 20-year-old Javier Galvin. Their connection to the shooting was complicated, and tensions rose as investigators pieced together what had happened. Police reports revealed that the group had been at Darian's apartment under the guise of recording music. While there, they used harmful substances and drank alcohol. During this time, some displayed weapons. Messages later revealed they planned to take Darian's rifle. 2 individuals fired shots during the robbery. Daisy claimed she was in the bathroom, while Dennis sent messages to cover up what had happened. The shooting itself was chaotic. Darian fought to protect himself, but in a matter of moments, 2 of the group's members opened fire. Lives were changed forever. The motive was primarily financial, a robbery gone wrong. The group had targeted Darian's firearm and some clothing. Their actions led to irreversible consequences. In court, the 3 young defendants took plea deals. On sentencing day, Judge Carly Kearney handed down probation instead of prison. Dennis and Daisy Gonzalez received 5 years probation, with requirements to earn a GED or high school diploma.
To probation, to share at no contact to co-defendants. no alcohol or drugs, and you are to extend a GED or high school diploma.
However, she remained stone-faced while the verdict was read. Javier Galvin received 2 years probation and was ordered to have no contact with his brother. The judge warned him, "Good luck to all of you. You will not get a second chance." Our next case involves a teenage girl and her boyfriend plotting to kill her own family.
You hear something?
Yes, he was screaming bloody murder.
Okay. And was he actually saying the words bloody murder, or are you just using that as a phrase?
I was just using that as a...
On a quiet night in 2014, the Sikorsky family in Plymouth Township, Michigan, faced a nightmare they could never have imagined. Their adopted daughter, 15-year-old Roxana Sikorsky, had been plotting something unthinkable, an attack on her family. Roxana wasn't acting alone. Her then-boyfriend, Michael Rivera, who was older than her, had been guiding her every move from outside the house. He sent her messages, giving her step-by-step instructions. That night, with a knife in hand, Roxana entered her 12-year-old brother's room and stabbed him. She then attempted to attack her younger sister before fleeing the house and running away with Rivera. Thankfully, her brother survived, and authorities quickly apprehended Roxana and Rivera. Upon investigation, it was discovered that Roxana and Rivera intended to kill her family and escape together. Investigations revealed that Rivera had been directing Sikorsky through text messages, providing explicit instructions and even anatomical diagrams to ensure the lethality of the attacks. As the case went to court, Roxana pleaded guilty to assault with intent to murder. The trial was heartbreaking for her family, particularly her adoptive mother, Laureen Sikorsky. Instead of anger, Laureen begged for mercy, believing Roxana had been manipulated by Rivera into making terrible choices.
Roxy was misled and used by an older adult. However, nothing will benefit this child by sending her to jail.
She said in court, she will miss her high school prom, her graduation, her friends, and her family. She is in desperate need of continued psychological help.
Roxana is now 17 years old. She will miss her high school prom, her graduation, her friends, and her family. She is in desperate need of continued psychological help.
Roxana also spoke in court, expressing deep regret for her actions. She apologized to her family, saying she was sorry for not being the daughter they had hoped for, and promised to work on becoming a better person.
I would like to apologize to my family for not being the daughter they wished I would be. I promise that I will get better, no matter what happens.
Despite her mother's plea, the judge sentenced Roxana to 10 to 20 years in prison. She received credit for the 528 days she had already spent in custody and would undergo extensive psychiatric treatment while serving her time. Meanwhile, Michael Rivera, the man responsible for influencing Roxana's actions, was sentenced to life in prison for his role in the attack. The case left the Sikorsky family shattered. A mother lost the daughter she had adopted and loved, while two siblings had to recover from both psychological and emotional wounds. While Roxana's mother holds hope for her daughter's future, the scars of that night remain.
It is perfect. She has psychological damage from the orphanage in Poland and then in her biological family. She was a good student, good girl, good friends. It's just a confluence of all bad events.
The next case shows how youth and violence collide in tragedy. Sofia Koval appeared in court, praying before her judge as she entered a no-contest plea for her grandmother's death, triggering both legal consequences and deep family grief.
Charged with one count of manslaughter. It is a second-degree felony. It is punishable by up to 15 years Florida State Prison. Do you understand that?
That's it.
On May 23, 2024, in Lauderdale Lakes, Florida, the shocking crime committed by 14-year-old Sofia Koval left a family and community reeling. After the beating death of her 79-year-old grandmother, Maria Koval, everyone struggled to comprehend how such horror emerged within a family. The day of Maria's tragic death, an emergency call led authorities to the Koval residence, where they discovered Maria unresponsive, with no hope of revival. Their investigation soon concluded that the perpetrator was her own granddaughter, Sofia. Family members struggled to understand how Sofia, once the bright and gentle girl of their family, could have done this. At just 14 years old, Sofia was taken into custody and placed in juvenile detention. At first, it seemed like her case would be handled in the juvenile system, but prosecutors soon had a different plan. On October 1st, prosecutors made a bold decision. Sophia would be charged as an adult with manslaughter. She was transferred from juvenile detention to the Broward County Jail and placed in protective custody. The courtroom was tense as a judge ruled that there was enough evidence to proceed with the case. Sophia prays that the decision will be in her favor, but the charge of manslaughter carries serious consequences.
14-year-old Sophia Koval openly prayed in court as she waited for her case to be called.
If convicted as an adult, Sophia could face up to 15 years in prison. There was also another complication. Sophia was not a U.S. citizen. If convicted, she could face deportation after serving her sentence. A Broward State Attorney, Harold F. Pryor, and a team of senior prosecutors carefully reviewed the case. However, because of her young age, there was a possibility that she could be sentenced under juvenile sanctions. In that case, she would serve a maximum of 3 years in detention and could be supervised until she turned 21.
On May 23, 2024, Sophia Koval did beat Yevgenia Koval about her head and body, resulting in multiple injuries. And during that beating episode,
After considering all the facts and evidence, they decided that the adult court was the right place for Sophia's trial. Because of the heinous nature of the crime, and after considering everything presented by the defense so far, I believe it is appropriate that this case should be handled in adult court, Pryor stated. While prosecutors wanted justice for Maria Koval, they also acknowledged that Sophia was still a child. They promised to work with her attorneys to find a resolution that balanced accountability with understanding her age and circumstances.
She is seen praying and crossing herself during that hearing. And her case was back in court today as the state is weighing whether to charge her as an adult.
The case left a family shattered. A grandmother lost her life, and a teenage girl now faced the consequences of a terrible act. The community struggled to understand how such violence could happen between loved ones. Judge Elizabeth Scherer also said it's a difficult decision.
Hold a 14-year-old in secure detention is very, very difficult under the law. Even when juveniles commit, first-degree felonies, robbery, kidnapping.
Sophia's case shows that even family ties can be broken by violence. Our next case involves a deadly setup. Kiana Mouton lured a man to a meeting knowing he would never walk away alive.
Breaking news now, an update to a story we brought you right at 4 o'clock. The young woman who lured a Lamar High School student to his death in a gang-related hit has just been sentenced.
Kiana Samiriel Mouton, a 16-year-old student at Lamar High School, was the center of a heinous crime in 2018. Known for her charm and charisma, Kiana had caught the attention of 18-year-old DeLindsay Mack, who had a crush on her. On November 3, 2018, Kiana lured DeLindsay to an abandoned lot, promising him a surprise. Little did he know that this surprise would be a meeting with his fate. Kendrick Johnson, a gang member with a chilling reputation, was waiting in the shadows, ready to strike. In a tragic turn of events, Kendrick Johnson opened fire on DeLindsay, ultimately leading to his death. Davian Thomas, the getaway driver, was present during the crime, but the identity of the second shooter remained a mystery. The Houston Police Department and the prosecution are urging the public to provide any information regarding his identity. The consequences of Kiana's actions were far-reaching, leaving a lasting impact on everyone involved. Kiana, now facing criminal charges, found herself facing the prospect of a life in prison. Her actions not only cost the life of an innocent young man, but also shattered the lives of his family and loved ones. Kendrick Johnson was sentenced to life without parole for his involvement in the heinous crime. Davian Thomas, the getaway driver in the DeLindsay murder case, received an equally harsh sentence. He was sentenced to 50 years in prison. According to court records, DeLindsay's murder was the result of an ongoing war between two Houston area gangs. DeLindsay, a promising athlete, had recently transferred to Lamar High School from Yates High School to escape gang vice. In 2024, Kiana Samiriel, now 22, was sentenced to 23 years in prison for her part in DeLindsay's death. Despite her age at the time of the crime, she was charged as an adult, meaning that she must serve at least half of her sentence before becoming eligible for parole. As Kiana's sentencing hearing got underway, DeLindsay's mother had the chance to address Kiana directly. She unleashed her anger and resentments towards Kiana in a powerful emotional speech. Her voice filled with raw emotion, she expressed her deepest hatred towards the teen, stating, "I hate you. You disgust me." While Kiana attempted to fight back tears, DeLindsay's mother had no qualms about pouring salt on her wounds. She bluntly told Kiana, "Don't you dare cry." The sentiment was clear. This mother felt no sympathy or remorse for the perpetrator of the heinous crime. In the aftermath of the hearing, Assistant District Attorney Sarah Seeley held a press conference to address the sentencing. She emphasized the severity of the case, highlighting its devastating impact on DeLindsey's parents. Miss Seeley stated that DeLindsey's parents had placed their child in the one place they believed he would be safe, school, but Kiona had taken advantage of the situation and orchestrated the murder. Kiona Mouton's shocking crime left a community in disbelief. Our next case started with a plan for a robbery, but ended with murder. Keandria Cook helped lure the victim into a trap and never looked back. What was supposed to be a carjacking crime and nothing more turned deadly in Daytona, Florida. Keandria Cook was 18 years old when she committed a crime that would change her life forever. Cook had been dating her boyfriend, Kendrick Bass, for a while before he proposed a business opportunity to help them get money faster. Cook agreed to this, and they began devising a plan. On March 22, 2017, Keandria Cook went on the Meet Me social app and started talking to 28-year-old Perry Nita. Cook then lured Perry from Palm Coast to South Daytona with talks of sex and marijuana. Nita agreed to meet with Cook and told her he was on his way. He invited 18-year-old Emmanuel Purcell to ride along with him. When they got to the location, they met Cook as she promised, and she got into the pickup truck with Nita and Purcell. After she entered the pickup, Bass waited for a while before he jumped in the back seat with a gun. When Purcell noticed this, he pushed Bass, who shot Purcell before he and Cook escaped. Purcell survived and soon talked to the police about what had happened. 2 days after this happened, Cook and Bass teamed up for another carjacking. It was at the time that Cook was arrested. Bass, on the other hand, ran away and would go on to evade police for 10 months. Meanwhile, Keandria was arrested and charged under the impression that she would not be sent to jail. Regardless, she was charged with conspiracy, carjacking, attempted carjacking with a deadly weapon, and felony battery. The conspiracy charge meant that Keandria could be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Because of miscommunication with her lawyer, Keandria and her mother were assured that she would not be going to prison if she took a plea deal. Her attorney told her to enter a no-contest plea to get the conspiracy charge dropped. If she pleaded no contest to principal to carjacking with a deadly weapon, principal to attempted carjacking with a deadly weapon, and principal to aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, she would get probation and not go to jail. Or at least that's what she thought. Following the advice of her attorney, Keandria pleaded no contest and appeared in court with the belief that it was just a formality. Keandria and her mother were shocked when Circuit Judge Matt Foxman sentenced Keandria to 20 years in prison, with 20 years of probation to run concurrent with her jail time. Hearing this, Keandria and her mother began to wail very loudly. This courtroom footage quickly went viral and gained millions of views from netizens. Many people who read the story were quick to point out that it was the fault of the public defender who initially argued her case. Cook was wailing before she broke down and had to be carried out of the courtroom. She reportedly passed out. During the next court appearance, Judge Foxman allowed Cook to withdraw her plea deal after she provided a recording where her former attorney assured her that she would not be going to jail. Her sentence was also thrown out, and she was allowed to start the sentencing afresh in 2018. This time around, Cook didn't cry because she knew what she was getting herself into. She entered into a no-contest plea again, and this time she was sentenced to 11 years in prison, with 20 years of probation to run concurrent with her jail term.
I just want to say that I'm sorry for the things wrong that her son had me shot because I didn't even know he was going to get shot.
Before she was escorted away, she apologized to the family of the victim, telling them that she didn't mean for their son to get shot. Keandria Cook will be free from prison in 2029. Kendrick Bass, on the other hand, was eventually caught 10 months later for an unrelated crime. Concerning the crime he committed together with Cook, he was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Keandria Cook conspired to rob someone, and this almost led to murder. The actions of these young offenders left pain and loss that will never heal, and their courtroom reactions reveal the chilling reality of how teenage choices can turn deadly.